Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how sometimes you just want to sound more, I don't know, smooth when you speak English?
Yeah, like you've got this.
Right. Like not just grammatically correct, but like you could actually, speak the language.
Yeah, totally. Like more fluent and confident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we found this awesome podcast episode from Speak Smoothly.
Oh, I love that podcast.
It's so good. And it had all these great tips on how to do just that, sound smoother and more fluent. And there are all these kind of shortcuts,
Yeah.
like things you can do even if you don't have tons of free time.
Oh, that's so key.
I know, right?
Right.
Because who has that?
Seriously.
So today we're taking a deep dive into that episode. And I think what's really cool about their approach is that it focuses on like very practical strategies. It's not about like, hardcore grammar rules or anything.
Right, more like tweaks you can make to your actual speaking.
Exactly.
I like that.
So one of the first things they emphasize is that fluency isn't just about vocabulary. It's more about the music of the language, like the intonation and stress.
Right, how you say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they had this great example.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Versus what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that tiny emphasis change completely changes the whole vibe.
It totally does, yeah. It's like you're changing the meaning without changing the words.
Totally.
And I think we often get so hung up on like learning the right words that we forget about that musicality of it all,
It's true. I never even thought about it like that. And I think, if you can mimic how a native speaker uses stress and rhythm,
Oh, absolutely.
that's like you're unlocking this secret code
Yeah.
to sounding more natural.
Like you're in the know. You know the secret handshake.
Yeah. And actually, that leads perfectly into their next point,
Okay.
which is the power of everyday expressions. Like, things like, that sounds great, or I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, like little phrases.
Yes, like those little phrases.
That you just kind of throw out there.
Right. And it might seem simple,
Yeah.
but they actually make you sound way more fluent.
Totally. Because, think about it. It's like having these prefabricated building blocks for a conversation, instead of searching for every single word, you just pull out this chunk of language that you've already got ready to go.
It's like you're not having to build it brick by brick every single time.
Exactly. And that makes you sound so much smoother and more spontaneous.
And less like,
Like you're translating in your head.
yes, like you're desperately searching for the dictionary in your brain.
Exactly.
Which none of us want to do.
No.
So it's all about mimicking those chunks, whether it's intonation or those common phrases. You're basically internalizing the music of English.
It's pretty cool.
I know. But what about those pesky filler words? Like, and that we all use. Let's be honest. The podcast actually suggests just pausing instead, like silence.
Oh, interesting.
Is silence really that powerful?
It actually can be. Everyone uses filler words sometimes. It's natural. But if you're using them constantly, it just makes you sound a little hesitant or unsure.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like you're searching for the words.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you just pause instead, it shows you're actually comfortable with that silence. You're not afraid to just be quiet for a second and think.
It's like you own the silence.
Yes. And that projects confidence in any language.
Wow, that's a really good way to put it. And they also recommended a couple of apps. Have you heard of LSA and Forvo?
I have, yeah. I've played around with both of them. I think actually Forvo is a great one for, if you want to just hear how native speakers pronounce certain words.
Yeah.
So you can really nail those tricky sounds.
Especially, right, because English pronunciation, oh my gosh.
Don't even get me started.
I know.
Something like weird rules and exceptions and...
Right, so it's nice to just hear it from a real person.
Exactly.
But LSA, I haven't used that as much.
That one's really cool because it goes beyond just individual words. And it analyzes, like, your intonation and your rhythm.
Oh, wow.
So it gives you feedback on, your stress and pauses and all that stuff, which is, like, essential for fluency.
It's kind of like having a little fluency coach right in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. So technology can definitely help, but the podcast also really stressed that, like, you have to actually speak the language.
Right, like actually get out there and practice.
Yes, not just like study it in a book.
Right, because you can know all the grammar rules in the world,
Right.
but if you can't string a sentence together...
Yeah, if you can't actually have a conversation.
Exactly, it's not going to do you much good. And they had some great advice on that too, actually. They were really big on language exchange apps.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, as a way to find people to talk to and really practice what you've learned.
Right, because even if you don't have, like, a native speaker friend right there in person.
Right.
You can find someone online who wants to learn your language.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so I think this is all super valuable stuff.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to you, the listener. What are some takeaways you got from this? How can you use this to make your English sound more smooth?
Well, I think, a good place to start might be to think about a phrase that you use all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like a greeting or just something you say every day.
Okay.
And record yourself saying it. Then go find a recording of, a native speaker saying the same phrase.
Right.
And just listen to the differences.
See where they're putting the emphasis.
Exactly. Where they're putting the emphasis. What are those subtle differences?
Right.
And then try and mimic that.
Oh, it's such a good exercise.
Yeah. And I think, another simple thing you can do is, next time you're tempted to say, just try pausing instead.
Yeah.
Just see what that feels like.
Just own that silence.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
And of course, maybe download one of those apps we were talking about.
Yeah, play around with them.
Right. See what works for you.
Exactly. So I think the biggest takeaway here is that fluency is a process. It's not like,
You don't just wake up one day and suddenly...
Right. It's not an end goal. You're never really finished.
Right.
It's just about making these small changes.
Absolutely.
That can make a big difference over time.
Yeah. And I think as you go about your week, think about this. Where can you consciously apply one of these techniques?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice.
To get a little smoother.
Exactly.
I love that. So good.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. On that note, we are going to wrap up. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.